Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to explain another important chapter, calorimetry. Let us see the first part. In this part, I'm going to explain what is heat capacity, what is specific heat capacity, what are the values of specific heats for ice, water, steam, and then we'll discuss about the temperature of the mixture of liquids, then specific heat of mixture, all that. So we'll focus more on specific heats and its applications. The question is, why should we learn calorimetry? That's an important thing we should answer. After the completion of this calorimetry, you all will be in a position to know the answers for the following questions. Why water is used in radiators? And why water is used in hot water bags? Another interesting question, why water is not suitable for frying? You cannot make these French fries with water. Why? Why you cannot hold ice for more time? Why steam at 100 degrees centigrade causes more damage than water at 100? If you look at water at 100 degrees centigrade, steam at 100 degrees centigrade, steam is more dangerous than water. What is the reason behind it? And we all will understand what is an important phenomenon called regulation. What is this regulation? And what is the principle of ice skiing? You all might have seen this ice skiing and what principle that ice skiing is possible. What is the principle of a pressure cooker? Let us all understand. So definitely after this chapter, you will be in a position to know the answers for all these questions. In addition to the above questions, remember, calorimetry can be widely used in life sciences, clinical medicine, pharmacology, biotechnology, ecology, environmental sciences, and many other areas. So, this chapter that you're about to learn has lot of applications in not only day-to-day life, in even in a lot of branches. So, first of all, what is calorimetry? That's the first question. So, calorimetry, if you remember, it is first of all a branch of physics. This is the branch of physics, or you can say heat also, which deals with the measurement of heat. So, calorimetry deals with the measurement of heat, or we can say the loss or gain of heat. So, in thermometry, we learned about the measurement of temperature, but here we'll deal with the measurement of heat. Let's understand what is meant by calorimeter. A calorimeter is a device used to find the loss or the gain of heat by a substance. So calorimeter, just like a thermometer, a calorimeter will help you to understand how much heat a substance lost, how much heat a substance gained. So calorimeter is a device used to find out loss or the gain of heat by a substance. So calorimeter is a branch of physics which deals with the measurement of heat, whereas a calorimeter is a device. How does a calorimeter looks? Remember, what are the parts of the calorimeter? A calorimeter mainly consists of a copper glass. Why we use copper? Copper is a good conductor. That means if I pour hot liquid, some of the energy will be absorbed by copper also. So there is a copper glass and there is a stirrer. What is the use of a stirrer? It's just like a spoon which is used to stir the contents. And this stirrer will be placed inside the copper glass, and this copper glass will be placed in a wooden box. This is a wooden box. Again, why wood? Wood is a bad conductor. And then around this copper glass, we keep some wool. And this, remember, wool again a bad conductor. And this wooden box is covered with a lid. A lid is also wooden, made up of wood. And a hole is also placed on the wooden lid. And to keep a thermometer, thermometer is used to measure the temperature. So this copper glass will be inside, the stirrer will be inside the copper glass, entire setup is covered with a lid. So this is what a calorimeter is all about. So this is the a diagram we can you can draw it. So that's what it is showed here. So as I said, there is a stirrer, thermometer, insulated lid, this copper glass calorimeter, there is a wool and a wooden box, and all these are actually will minimize the heat loss. So a calorimeter is a device used to find out the loss or gain of heat. Now let's define what is heat capacity. A simple definition: the amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature of a substance through 1 degree centigrade. So heat capacity is nothing but the amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature of a substance through 1 degree centigrade. Remember, here I am not mentioning the mass. Simply I said the amount of energy required to raise the temperature of a substance. So we use heat capacity symbol H. So H is equal to dQ by dt. So that means when I make the temperature through 1 degree centigrade, raise the temperature, so H is nothing but Q. That means this energy required to raise the temperature through 1 degree is called heat capacity. H is equal to, sometimes it is also called thermal capacity. Heat capacity, otherwise called thermal capacity. So in problems, they'll say thermal capacity. So what will be the units? We all know that heat energy is measured in calories. So calorie by temperature in degree centigrade. So I can write calorie centigrade inverse. In SI system, we use joule per Kelvin. So joule Kelvin inverse. Now I want to convert. So 1 calorie per degree centigrade is 4.2 joule per Kelvin. An important conversion factor you should remember here. 1 calorie is 4.2 joule and 1 degree centigrade is same as 1 Kelvin. Now let's move ahead. What is meant by specific heat capacity, or simply we can say specific heat? Both are same. So let us understand what is the difference between heat capacity and specific heat. Here remember, the specific heat is defined as the amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature of, that is very important, a unit mass of a substance through 1 degree centigrade. Here I didn't define any mass here, but when we define the specific heat, we need to mention that the amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature through 1 degree centigrade of a unit mass. So the same definition, the amount of energy required to raise the temperature of a unit mass. Simply we write unit mass of a substance through 1 degree centigrade. There we don't fix the mass, here we'll fix the mass. That is the only difference. So that's why the symbol first, formula is C is equal to 1 by m into dq upon dt. Here there is no mass, here there is a mass. That is the only difference between specific heat and heat capacity. So I got the formula here. C is equal to 1 by m into dq upon dt. Now if you cross multiply, dq is equal to mc dt, or simply we can write q is equal to mc delta T, which means mc into final temperature minus initial temperature. This is a very important equation we need to remember in this chapter. So specific heat, let us write the units of the specific heats. So here again this is gram, calorie, degree centigrade. So this second write calorie, gram inverse, centigrade inverse. And if I want to write the SI unit, I can write joule, kg inverse, Kelvin inverse. Again, I want to find out what is the value of calorie per gram degree centigrade. We know that 1 calorie is 4.2 joule and 1 gram is 10 power minus 3 kg. 1 degree Kelvin and 1 Kelvin, 1 Kelvin and 1 degree is the same. So this is simply 4200 joule kg inverse Kelvin inverse. This is a very important point. So 1 calorie per gram per degree centigrade is same as 4200 joule per kg per Kelvin. So you should understand the main difference between heat capacity and specific heat capacity. In heat capacity, we don't mention the mass. Here we'll mention what is per unit mass we calculate. So let's try to understand the other questions. So we defined what is specific heat. Now let's try to understand what is calorie, kilocalorie, and standard calorie. A calorie is nothing but the amount of energy required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water through 1 degree centigrade. Here we are taking water. So remember the amount of it is required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water through 1 degree centigrade. And what is kilocalorie? This is simply a calorie. Then what is kilocalorie? Kilo means 1000, that is 1 kg. So the amount of heat is required to raise the temperature of 1 kg of water through 1 degree centigrade. Here 1 gram for 1 degree. So here kilocalorie means 1 kg water we take and the energy required to raise through 1 degree centigrade is called 1 kilocalorie. But remember, it is observed that when we raise the temperature of water from 20 degrees centigrade to 21 degrees centigrade and 40 degrees centigrade to 41 degrees centigrade, the rise of temperature, even though it is 1 degree, but the energy required is not same. That means here the energy required is different and here the energy required is different. That means the specific heat will change from range of temperatures. So that's why if you want to define a standard calorie, so what is a standard calorie? A standard calorie is nothing but the amount of energy required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water from 14.5 to 15.5. So when we raise the temperature from 14 to 15.5, it is observed that the energy required is exactly 4.2 joules. So that means this is what you call a standard calorie. So 14.5, again this is 1 degree only. At that 1 degree centigrade, we require 4.2 joules of energy. I hope you understood the difference between calorie, a kilocalorie, and a standard calorie. So now let us write the values of specific heats of ice, water, and steam. And remember, these values are very important for solving problems. So let us take the first one, ice. For ice, the specific heat is 0.5 calorie gram inverse centigrade inverse. And just now I said this is nothing but 4200 joule kg inverse Kelvin inverse. So if you multiply that, you get 2100 joule kg inverse Kelvin inverse. Similarly, let us take an important one, water. Remember, for water the specific heat is So specific heat of water is exactly 1 calorie gram inverse centigrade inverse or 4200 joule kg inverse Kelvin inverse. So these two values are very important. Sometimes we may get rarely that steam. And remember the specific heat of steam will be around 0.47 calorie gram inverse centigrade inverse. And if you look at the gases for hydrogen, the specific heat of hydrogen will be 3.5 calorie gram inverse centigrade inverse. So it is very clear that the specific heat of solids, and if you look at liquids and gases, so it is observed that the specific heat of gases will be more than specific heat of liquids, which is more than specific heat of a solid. So in general, specific heats of gases will be more than liquids, and which is more than a solid. That is another important point. So among all the liquids which has the highest specific heat, no doubt it is water. And among all the gases which has the specific heat, hydrogen. Hydrogen is 3.5. Now the next question is, why specific heat is known as thermal inertia? That is an interesting question. We all know that inertia is nothing but inability of a body to change the state. Why we are using the word called inertia here? Remember why it is called thermal inertia means a substance having more specific heat will take more time to change the temperature. So it will take more time to heat up and more time to cool down. That means it is taking more time. So it will take more time to heat up and more time to cool down. That's why it is called inertia, thermal inertia. Another important point is, if you look at water and oil gets heated up in less time when compared to water. So that means water has more thermal inertia when compared to oil. So because the one having more specific heat will take more time to heat up and more time to cool down. And let us understand on what factor the specific heat depends. Remember, the specific heat of a material is not constant. That's an important thing. It depends upon the first one, the location of temperature interval. Just now I said, when you take water from 20 to 21, 40 to 41, the energies are not same. So here energy is different, here energy is different. So it depends on temperature interval. The second one is, it depends on nature of the substance. Water has specific heat more than oil, and it changes from substance to substance. And not only that, it even depends upon scale of temperature. So the third important point is scale of temperature. Let me explain what is that scale of effect of scale of temperature. That's why I asked a question. Is calorie gram centigrade is same as calorie gram Fahrenheit? Whether you express in specific in calories and Fahrenheit, is it same? Let me explain. So here, if you look at the unit, calorie, gram, centigrade, calorie, gram, degree Fahrenheit. So we know that here, let us take, here the specific heat is changed in Celsius, here the specific heat changed in Fahrenheit. Since E is equal to 1 by M, yeah, better we write this first. C is equal to 1 by M into dq by dt. So now this I can write specific heat when the temperature in Celsius is equal to 1 by m dq upon dt. Here the temperature is expressed in the change of temperature in Celsius. Similarly, Cf is equal to 1 by m into dq by dt, where the temperature is expressed in fan heat. So from this, if I take the ratio, Cc upon Cf will become delta F by delta C. But in the previous chapter, I proved that delta C by 5 is equal to delta F by 9. So from this, Cc upon Cf is nothing but delta F by delta N is so 9 by 5. Simply, I can say that Cc is equal to 9 by times Cf. So what does that mean? When we express specific heat in Celsius, it will be more than when the value of specific heat expressed in Fahrenheit. So from this, we understand that Cc will be greater than Cf. That means specific heat of a substance when expressed in Celsius will get more value when compared to the specific heat of substance when expressed in Fahrenheit. So from that I can say 1 calorie uh, gram inverse centigrade inverse is not equal to 1 calorie gram inverse Fahrenheit inverse because they are not the same. So this is an important conversion you should keep in mind. So I hope I answered all these questions. Yes. Now already we learned that the specific heat of a liquid is always more than specific heat of a solid, and which is more than specific heat of a gas. Now the question is why water is not suitable for frying. So on this I did a video, so you can watch the same channel. We can watch this video why water is not suitable for frying. And the same way, another application based on the same concept, how watermelon retain coolness for more time when compared to other fruits. These two videos, if you watch them, you'll understand the phenomenon more effectively. So let's move ahead. So till now we discussed about all. Again, the same logic. Why water is used in radiators and in hot water bags? Let me explain. If you look at a radiator, what is the purpose of a radiator? A radiator will maintain the temperature of a engine or the motor relatively at low temperature. That means it will absorb energy from the engine, and this water in the radiator will take that energy and it evaporates. The question is why water? Because water has high specific heat. It will absorb more energy from the radiator, from the engine, and thereby it maintains the engine at low temperature. The same logic goes even for, but before that, nowadays we don't use water in radiators. Instead, we are using a substance called a coolant. The name itself, a coolant is nothing but a substance which absorbs energy. So clearly you can see that this is a radiant coolant, radiation coolant. So it will absorb energy from the engine and maintains. The main advantage of this coolant is no need to change for 1 or 2 years. Okay, it is better than water. So no longer we use water, we use this coolants which absorb more energy from the radiators. Now the question is hot water bags. So we use these hot water bags, especially the old people who are suffering with joint pains or muscle pains. They use these water bags to relieve their pain. Again, we use water, the same logic. Water has more specific heat. That is the only reason. Let's move ahead. What is the relation between the heat capacity and important the specific heat? Let's try to understand. We know that heat capacity is dq upon dt and specific heat capacity is 1 by m into dq by dt. So in the place of dq by dt, I write h. So C is equal to h upon m. Simply h is equal to mc. So heat capacity, otherwise it is called thermal capacity. Now for two different substances, we can just compare it as H1 upon H2 is equal to M1 upon M2 into C1 upon C2. Sometimes they'll give volume instead of mass. So mass is equal to volume into density. So heat capacity ratio can also be written as in terms of volumes V1 by V2 into rho 1 by rho 2 into C1 by C2. And sometimes they give the spherical bodies. Spherical. So when we take the spherical bodies, volume of the sphere is, we all know, V is equal to 4 by 3 pi r cube. So simply in the place of volume, write down. So therefore, H1 upon H2 is equal to R1 upon R2 whole cube into rho 1 by rho 2 into C1 by C2. But sometimes in the problem, they mention that both the spheres made of same material. Same material. Remember, whenever they say same material, two things are constant, the density and specific heat. So rho comma C are constant. So simply we can write H1 upon H2 is equal to R1 by R2 whole cube. That means when the two spheres are made up of same material, the ratio of specific heat capacities will be in the ratio of their density, radii. So these equations, so when masses are given, then when the volumes are given, and this is when the radius are given, and when the same specific heat is given. So these are the four different expressions we should understand. So here remember, no need to by heart any formulas, just understand this problem, this formula, how I convert into different forms depending on the problem. This you need to learn in physics. If you can write this formula into the equation that you require, physics problems are very simple. Now let us see an important concept in this video, temperature of mixture of liquids. So what I'll do is I'll consider two liquids. Let us take this is liquid A and which contains, let us take m1 grams of liquid, specific to C1 and whose temperature is T1. There is another beaker which contains another liquid, let's take B, and whose mass is m2, specific it is C2, and let's take the temperature is T2, such that T2 greater than T1. The moment I mix the two liquids, if I mix them, since T2 greater than T1, remember the liquid B loses heat and whereas the liquid A gains heat. That means B will lose heat, A will gain heat. How long they exchange energies? Until they reaches a common temperature. So let that T be the resultant temperature or common temperature. This is resultant temperature. Remember this temperature T will be more than T1 and will be less than T2. The resultant temperature will be more than T1 and less than T2. Here we should understand one important thing. We have to use the formula Q is equal to MC delta T because there is a loss or gain of heat. Who is losing heat? B loses heat, A gain heat. Let me calculate heat lost by B. So Q lost is equal to, what is mass of B? M2. What is specific heat of B? C2. And change of temperature. The temperature is T2 and T. So this is more than this. So we write T2 minus T. Now similarly, let me calculate heat gained by A. Let me calculate that. Heat gained by A. So therefore this Q gained. Again, what is the mass of A? M1, C1, very important. As I said, T greater than T1, so write T minus T1. This is a very crucial step. Here we apply a principle called principle of calorimetry, or sometimes we say method of mixtures. So what is this method of mixture says? When there is no loss of energy to the surroundings, when there is no loss of energy to the surroundings, simply we can write Q lost is equal to Q gained. The principle of calorimetry says when there is no loss of energy to the surroundings, heat lost by hot body is equal to heat gained by a cold body. Simply let us equate. So M2C2 into T2 minus T is equal to M1C1 into T minus T1. Just we want to find T, just multiply this. So M2C2 T2 minus M2C2T is equal to M1C1T minus M1C1T1. Now let me rearrange it. I'll just take this side. So M1C1T1 plus M2C2T2 is equal to M1CT plus M2C2T. So this is again I can write M1C1T1 plus M2C2T2 is equal to, if I take T common, M1C1 plus M2C2. So simply I want to find out the temperature of the mixture. So ultimately T is equal to M1C1T1 plus M2C2T2 whole upon M1C1 plus M2C2. This is the temperature of mixture of two liquids. A simple application. Simply equate heat lost by hot body is equal to heat gained by a cold body. Here we should understand some of the cases. So let's discuss some special cases. The first case is if masses of the two liquids are equal. That means if M1 is equal to M2. I am mixing equal mass of two liquids. In that case, temperature of the mixture is equal to simply C1T1 plus C2T2 upon C1 plus C2. When we mix equal masses of two different liquids, this is what we get. Let us see. Let us mix equal masses of same liquid. When I say equal masses, so M1 is equal to M2. When I say same liquid, even specific hits are also equal. So what happened? Then T mixture simply equals T1 plus T2 by 2. That means that resultant temperature is only the average. The resultant temperature is simply the average. So let us take a simple example. You will understand this far better. Suppose I mix 1 kg of hot water at 80 degrees centigrade with 1 kg of cold water at 20 degrees centigrade. Now remember, same water, so specific it is same, and masses are also equal. I simply take resultant temperature is 80 plus 20 upon 2. The answer is 50 degrees centigrade. So that means when we mix equal masses of same liquid, simply take the average. The third case is let us take different masses of same liquid. When I said different mass of same liquid, only C1 is equal to C2, M2 not equal to M2. In that case, temperature of mixture is M1T1 plus M2T2 upon M1 plus M2. So these three are very important applications of this formula that we learned. So simply method of mixture says heat lost by hot body is equal to heat gained by a cold body. So let us see the last in this video. What is specific heat of mixture? So let us consider the two liquids again. The specific heat of this is C1 mass is C2, M1, sorry, and similarly specific at C2, mass M2. I want to mix them. But one condition will be given. The temperature of the liquids before and after mixing is constant. So that means it has energy Q1, it has energy Q2. When you mix, the energy of the mixture become Q1 plus Q2. What is Q? MC delta T. So what is the total mass of the mixture? M1 plus M2 into specific heat of the mixture into change of temperature, let us say delta T, which is equal to what is Q1? M1 C1 delta T plus M2 C2 delta T. Since everywhere the temperature is same, so specific heat of the mixture is equal to M1 C1 plus M2 C2 whole upon M1 plus M2. This is nothing but the specific heat of mixture. So in this video, I try to explain all the equations related to specific heat, why it is called thermal inertia, and why we cannot use water for frying, what is calorie, what is standard calorie, all that. So in the next video, I'm going to explain what is latent heat. Then we'll discuss some applications of specific heat and latent heat. I hope you all understood this video, and I hope this is helping you a lot. If you really think that, please subscribe my channel and do not forget to click the bell icon to more updates. Thank you once again. I wish you happy physics learning.